Welcome to Tackling Tech. I'm Harjit and Senior Product Marketing Manager for Cloud Endpoints at Microsoft. This is a special episode for Microsoft Build 2024 in Seattle. And joining me is my good friend, longtime friend, and now awesome colleague, Rick Claus.
Thanks for having me on, Harjit. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. It's been a long time. I've been wanting you on the show.
We ran into each other earlier with some stuff we were doing on campus.
Yeah.
And then Bill came around. You said you're coming back for Build. And I'm like, we should sit down and have a chat.
Exactly.
So here we are. So my name is Rick Claus. You might have seen me in some other videos or other things that I've done over the years. I've been on Microsoft now far too long based on the gray hair. 19 years. 19 years doing stuff in the field in Canada, down here in Redmond at the headquarters, and then also around the world on the videos like that. But now, basically, I've determined that I can grow and scale by managing teams. So I don't mean the product teams, like people teams.
People teams.
You got it. So
Yeah.
basically, I manage a team, or 3 teams, basically, international teams that are based all the way from Kenya to Europe to North America to Canada to Australia, across the board. 18 odd people or so. That focus on infrastructure, hybrid environments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cloud native, which is born in the cloud, Kubernetes, fun stuff like that, with AKS, Linux, and also security as well. So all the bucket of stuff across the board.
How do you manage your team all over the world? When do you sleep and when do you wake up?
So I learned as a manager that is basically you serve at the behest of your team. And so whenever they want to have a meetings, I try my best to make it work in their time zone.
Right.
So I will get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning for the occasional meeting for Europe and for Africa.
Okay.
I will stay up late to be able to have meetings in the afternoons in Australia, and things like that too. So really it's just a matter of finding the right time. But there is no one real good time unless it happens to be at, I want to say, 3 o'clock in the morning for me in Pacific, where the 2 edge people have the ability to overlap if one of them stays up till like 11 o'clock. So it can be a bit of a challenge internationally.
And then there's naps in between, right?
Yes. Oh, yes. Definitely naps in between for sure. But, my team, as I mentioned, talks about hybrid connectivity. We end up talking about endpoints and management of endpoints in Windows as far as our customers are concerned. But we primarily focus on server and server platform or our data centers, Azure all up.
So that's what I want to talk to you about, because a lot of the shows that I do, they are, device management or endpoint, right? Focused. Intune, Windows 11, things like that. Some security as well.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about server infrastructure.
Well, believe it or not, we still make a server product. Did you know that?
Yeah.
So, yes, Windows Server. We partnered recently with the engineering team from Windows Server in order to try to drum up more interest and get more people involved in the Insiders program, because that's how the engineering teams collect feedback about Windows Server.
So there's an Insiders program for Windows Server.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Just for Windows Server. And that gets you access like you do the Insider program for Windows as a client,
right?
To be able to go off and have early access to the bits, try them outside your environment, see how they work and stuff like that. So same thing for Windows Server. And so they were struggling to be able to get the word out about the program and about getting additional feedback. And I'm like, hey, let's do a virtual event. Let's have some fun with this.
Right, and it just happened.
And so, but it was done on the Microsoft Tech Community Platform. It's called the Tech Takeoff. But basically, my team got together with the engineering teams and with the marketing teams for Windows Server, and we said, what kind of content could we create that is completely no holes barred? Like, it can be as long as you want, it can be as short as you want, it can be on whatever topic it is, but it has to somehow relate to the Windows Server ecosystem, and predominantly stuff with the newer things for Server 2025.
2025.
Yes, the most recent version.
Right.
Server.
Okay.
And this kind of spun out of Microsoft Ignite session that the engineering team did about what's new in Server 2025.
Okay.
So they realized that they needed to do something. So that was the event, that was the concept, and that was one of the things that my team did. 38 pieces of content were created by the engineering team in less than 2 months to be able to put this on. And about putting on events and making content.
Yes.
That's a pretty big feat.
That's a pretty big
So
feat.
talk about scale. That's what we did, man. We scale.
And this was delivered in 2 days or 3 days?
It was delivered over 3 days.
3 days.
And so we were experimenting with how we can use the platform and what we can do to be able to make a virtual event. There was no ability to do it in person, obviously.
Right.
But our goals were, content is the center point. So the content and the messaging, that's the most important part. So
Right.
don't restrict people on stuff.
Mhm.
Coach and help people that are learning how to deliver content for the first time. So we have new speakers that we can
Right.
grow.
That's excellent.
Open it up to the community. So
Mhm.
we had MVPs that participated, created
perfect.
content as well. Also in the topic and the realm of Windows Server. And then, are we able to scale this and build this over a very quick period of time to be able to talk about it? And so the engineering teams bought in, the leaders of the engineering teams encouraged all the PMs to be able to get together and create content on their own topics. We had stuff on there for GPU acceleration in Windows Server, hypervisor access to new storage subsystems and how that performs. We had something from Steve Seifus that was talking about the death of NTLM.
Okay.
Which is, a very big topic these days for different things because obviously it's around all over the place. So a
Patching.
large stuff. Patching. We had two different. What do they call it? It's called Windows servicing, isn't it?
Yes.
Is that the official name? You should know this.
Yes, yes,
right?
Windows servicing. Yeah.
So basically, Windows servicing, different options for being able to figure out testing patches, how to deploy, how to constrain them, how to deploy them on scale, stuff like that. All sorts of cool stuff in that area. All this content all lives on the community.
And we will share the information.
Well, it's aka.ms/Windows Server Summit.
Windows Server Summit.
You got it. That'll take you to the most recent version. And that tech community page basically lists off all 38 sessions that you can go off and see. It's available on demand now. And it's also available as individual files and as a playlist on YouTube.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. So, what are the highlights that came out from that event in terms of sessions and
Yeah.
interactions from attendees and stuff like that?
You had your usual heavy hitters that people were expecting to show up and to deliver.
Okay.
And so one of the most popular sessions was Jeff Woolsey talking about virtualization and Hyper-V. Hyper-V is still around,
Yeah.
still a viable option, and people use it in the enterprise. It's the foundation of how we do stuff in the hyperscale cloud as well for our fabric and how our fabric works. And so Hyper-V definitely is still there. That was a very popular one. Very timely as well because of VMware and Broadcom and other current issues that are going on inside of that space.
Right.
So kind of cool. That was a surprise. Just the heavy hitter expected to be good. Another known individual, Ned Pyle.
Oh yeah.
So he originally was going to be the owner, if you will, of NTLM, which is a friend of mine from Canada, Steve Seifus, is one of the guys that's on that team. He wasn't able to participate because he was too swamped with stuff. So Ned stepped up and delivered the session about the end of NTLM and how to start to phase it out of your organization and use more secure options. So that was pretty cool. It's another sleeper unknown that became
He's
cool.
a big known figure.
Yeah. But then some of these unknowns, like I mentioned, like the GPU, that was done by the researchers that are part of the product team about how to do GPU acceleration and use of GPUs for large language models and machine learning and AI.
Right.
It's on premises, on the edge, in a hybrid world, is possible to be done and have good throughput and support for all those new GPUs.
Okay. Anything about Copilot? In server?
So there was nothing directly talking about Copilot in server in this particular realm, you assume with any Microsoft event or topic or webinar
It's
or
Copilot,
engagement,
isn't it?
there's got to be Copilot somewhere. So all I can say is simply watch this space and stay tuned, because if it wasn't there, it's probably going to be there soon. Be my guess. There were no Copilot sessions specific.
Okay.
Inside of that particular list of sessions over there.
Okay. There's also another hot topic that, I hear from IT pros and stuff that are still doing on-premises.
Yeah.
Right? And our, messaging has been, what I always hear is that do Azure Arc, right? So how is that something that you hear a lot about, and how are you helping these people to get to the cloud?
Oh, absolutely. So my philosophy's always been, so I've been a tried and true server guy, rack and stack and servers back in the day. When Azure came out back 11 and a half years ago or so, when there was announced at PDC that there was going to be this thing called the cloud and Azure that was coming out, I started to get involved back then, understanding how it could work and what could work. My position has always been that it makes whatever makes sense for you as a customer
Okay.
to be able to go in and to run and maintain your systems and start to explore using the cloud and cloud technologies to complement those.
Mhm.
That's why my team is actually called Modern Hybrid Infrastructure. So
Hybrid.
so we can talk about being a cloud exclusive. We can talk about designing Kubernetes cloud native solutions. We can talk about content about how to migrate your workloads from on-premises up into the cloud environment. All that sort of stuff can be covered, and it makes sense. You as an individual working in IT need to be aware of all the options and the scope of stuff. And as you mentioned, Azure Arc is one way of being able to go in and reveal what I call the value add services that you can bring in. So we actually had a session on Azure Arc inside the Windows Server Summit because it's part of the Windows Server ecosystem. You can go off and check that session out. If Harjit is watching this later, make sure you put in the URL below right here with where to go to that specific session. So now you got extra editing to do.
There you go.
So yes, Azure Arc brings down the way Azure Arc. When I first learned of Azure Arc, this was, oh my gosh, 6.5 years ago, I think it was when I first learned about it. Think of it like it's a framework or a shell of having different things you can plug into it. Is how it was originally conceived. And then you could plug in the ability to go off and do log collection. You could plug in the ability to do file system monitoring and stuff like that, and bring that kind of stuff up inside your centralized environment. So
From your on-premises.
from your on-premises into there, from your physical or from your virtual, all that sort of stuff can come in to be able to go up inside of that. So basically it gives you extended management capabilities and visibility on stuff. And so Arc is one of those ways you can go in and start to view everything inside of a larger space. And then now, here's your Copilot angle. If you've got all this stuff coming up into the centralized space up above inside your Azure workspace, now you can go in and use some things we talked about here at Build, as in like Security Copilot, or as in even Copilot for Azure, which we talked about here at Microsoft Build. You can go in and query these different things in natural language and just simply say, hey, show me all the systems and servers that are showing error number 6089 inside my event logs across my entire spectrum of things.
Yeah.
Because it's inside that one workspace, they can pull that up nicely for you.
Yeah.
And some of them are coming from Arc systems that are on premises. Some of them are from the cloud inside your virtual machine environment.
Amazing.
And it all comes together as one, as a
Amazing.
possibility. Now, it's in preview release, it's getting better. The architecture of Azure Copilot, Copilot for Azure, is that it works with the concept of like plugins of different functionality. So as different teams of services inside of Azure add in their capabilities into Copilot for Azure, it will make it so that it gets even more functionality.
Okay.
So very cool. So I could do a whole session just talking about
Oh my God,
Copilot for
that's
Azure
awesome.
if I wanted to. We'll do that later. So
Yeah. So what about patching?
Yeah.
Hot patching seems to be.
Oh, another sleeper topic that was probably one of the most asked for ones during that particular session. The concept of having hot patching capable, the possibility of having it available. So it's not just inside of Azure like it is right now.
Right.
It's available under the Server 2022 Data Center Azure Edition. I've got the name wrong, don't quote me on that. Inside of
I have no
Azure,
idea.
you also can do it on premises if it's running on top of your Azure Stack HCI box. You can do it on those systems there too. With Server 2025, they're talking about with an Arc-enabled server, it will be available to do as well.
Okay.
So that was actually released back, as far as an announcement was concerned, back at the last Ignite back in November of 2024. About having hot patching. So the idea of having your cumulative update patches that take place once a month and applied, now you can go in and receive them as a hot patch and have them applied in the background and keep on going with no restart the system. But then the next month you'd have to do a full plan on how to do it. So you can control how to do it. And then I believe, I got to think about if I'm able to say this, I think I am. Yeah, that we talked about having hot patching available. Originally, with one of the insider builds, it was only available inside the core edition.
Okay.
It's also available for the desktop
Okay.
on Windows Server.
That's pretty hot stuff.
Yeah. So it's the whole session just talking about hot patching.
So you
the functionality behind it.
So you get quicker patching, right?
Yep.
You get your security even quicker.
Yeah.
That's what customers want, and less reboots.
Less reboots. The example that they used was actually our good friends over at Xbox. Did you know this?
No.
So they basically have Xbox uses Hot Patch. They're one of our biggest customers and champions of this.
Okay.
Because the infrastructure that runs Xbox Live is run with Windows Server in the back end for running that particular system inside the cloud, inside of Azure. And they have to patch their systems. And they have to scale the systems for rolling out the patches across all their different infrastructure. It takes them virtually an entire month to go through all the servers. And then they start again with the next month.
Okay.
So now we basically reduced their patching time in half.
Dang.
So they're happy.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
And others are happy too.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Geez, you're hitting all the topics, man. It's all great. Hitting all the topics.
So what else you want to hit on?
No, I'm just saying, I wanted to ask you a question about, because you were just here at Microsoft Build. And you and I have been talking about something that we've already announced, which is Microsoft Ignite taking place in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
If you could put on your rosy glasses and have a wand and wave a wish, what would you like to see, or what would you like to do at Microsoft Ignite? That would be kind of cool. Work related, maybe social. I don't know. Like what would you think could be there? Because we'll say this is not a forward-looking statement for the purposes of stock manipulation and things like that. Just simply informal. What do you think?
I think what always is awesome is like the behind the scenes
Oh yeah.
tools,
Yeah.
right? So if we could do those more,
Okay.
get people to experience what goes on behind the scenes at the conference, right? Back doors, things like that, how things are set up. They have an idea, right? The scale and how many people it takes to hit something like that.
Okay.
Instead of just like walking around, going into a session, coming out, grabbing a coffee, right? So once you understand that, and even like how we bring out bubble sheets, right? They do an amazing job, right?
Yep,
Without them, you can't have conference.
You got it.
So it's things like that, like just get
So logistical background of putting on the event.
Yeah.
Not teasing what's coming from the event, but actually during the event or leading up to the event, what goes on behind the scenes to be able to do it.
Yeah, so that's
how many miles or kilometers of cable do you have to be able to run between the rooms to be able to set up that infrastructure?
yes, I
Like
love
that.
data
How do, you,
like that.
how do you configure the Wi-Fi network to make it functional
That's
inside
right.
of that kind of a space with all those attendees?
Because I saw over here, right? Someone tweeted about, hey, what's this little
Flying saucer devices on the
flying
tripods.
saucer devices,
Yeah, yeah.
right? They're the Wi-Fi device,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
the
yeah,
routers.
totally.
And,
I could get Steve on talking about that.
there you go.
I think his name is Steve.
Is it?
I have to look back in my archive of videos. Joey and I did an interview with the Microsoft internal person and team that actually builds the conference Wi-Fi just for that conference. It's something to
Just
do.
for the conference, and it gets toned down.
Yeah, so I gotta find that video.
Yeah. Leading up to Ignite,
Yeah.
I love what you used to do with Joey, the countdown thing,
Oh yeah.
right? I think that needs to come back.
Well, it was sort of here. Did you see that?
It was,
So,
yeah.
so we have a show that's
Yeah.
called Unplugged,
Yeah.
the event Unplugged.
Yes.
So I did that for Ignite in last fall. I also did one for Microsoft Build. Other people did some stuff for Microsoft Build as well. And that was cool, and we're doing them. And I can tell you, again, behind the scenes, we are going to do something like that for Microsoft tonight. We're going to start filming some stuff
Yeah.
like that to get you excited to be able to come
Yes.
and give you some of the behind the scenes stuff too. So
Yeah.
that's coming. But that's on the blog, so you can go off and take a look at it at mybuild.microsoft.com, or you can go off and take a look at it for ignite.microsoft.com as well.
Because those shows actually give a lot of good information. Like,
Oh, yeah.
hey, what's going on in the city? Where do you go to get this? How do you do transportation?
Well, one thing that someone asked me to do, maybe you want to help me out with this one, sure, is Event 101. Like,
yes.
if this is your first time at a particular event, what should you do to get the most out of participating during that event? So
We
there's
should
like
do
a
that.
one-on-one show or something. Yeah, for that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's do it.
I'll put you in the audition list. I don't know if he's any good with cameras or audio or I don't know.
Audition list.
I'll put you on as a possible. You get a recommendation for me.
Okay, that's good.
Hey man, thanks for having me on the show.
It's been fun. So casual. This is not even rehearsed. We just went with the flow.
Yeah, I know. There's no script.
There's no script.
But like, in all honesty, though, if you do, whenever you're on campus, you want to do something, let's go ahead. I live there.
Yes.
So if you want to have access to some stuff and be able to film some things, and you need inside access to things, let me know. I'll help you.
Sounds good.
This is fun.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Rick.